It's the Smart Driving Cars podcast. We are glad you are joining us once again. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good morning, Fred.
Good morning. And with us today is Grayson Brulte, founder and CEO of The Road to Autonomy, a leading source of data, insight, and commentary on autonomous vehicles and logistics. And he is making some headlines. Hi, Grayson.
Hey, Fred. Hey, Alan. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love having you.
Well, let's get to the news, Grayson. The Road to Autonomy has selected S&P Dow Jones indices to be the custom calculation agent for the Road to Autonomy Index, ticker Autonomy, and the Road to Autonomy Total Return Index, ticker AutoMyTR. Give us the overview here, Grayson.
The overview is that everything we know about how we live, how we work, how we travel is going to change with autonomy. It's going to have a positive impact on the global economy. And we saw an opportunity in the market where nobody was tracking what was actually happening in this. There are firms that are building innovative things, but no firm was looking at what is the big holistic approach? How is this going to change farming? How is this going to change the delivery of goods? And we built this index, and we're very lucky and fortunate to have S&P as our partners because they have the transparency and the credibility here. And the overall goal is the autonomous vehicle industry, it's healthy. And this index is a clear indication that this industry is healthy and it will have a positive impact on the way that we live.
Really interesting. Now, tell us about the selection of companies in these indices. Not all may be obvious choices, I guess, to the average viewer.
They're not obvious choices to the average viewer. Your listeners and subscribers are well aware of the impacts. The bottom line is that these companies have an average market cap of $303 billion. It'd be $303 billion. There's 38 companies in there. They're all using autonomy today to benefit their businesses. They're all making public statements to accelerate autonomy. If you look at it, so with John Deere's in there, we're talking about farming. The CEO of John Deere has publicly stated every tractor from 2025 will be autonomous ready. That's a very big growing market. If you look at the ODD where they're operating in, it's very profitable. And the other thing that makes the index, people don't realize, is partnerships. The future of autonomy will be defined by partnerships. C.H. Robinson, for example, is in the index. They're publicly working with Waymo. UPS is publicly working with autonomy companies. Union Pacific is in the index as well. It's all going to work together, and autonomy is going to impact these businesses and drive growth for these companies.
I agree with you. I mean, the interesting thing that to me that has happened with respect to automation or autonomy, I mean, I sort of don't like autonomy because it implies that there are people that are looking over, making sure everything's kosher, okay, and working. But I think what these industries have found, I love farming, is that if they look at what they're doing, what they're producing, and what they've produced with human labor, they found that, in fact, if they modify that process a little bit, they can accommodate autonomy or automation, thus reducing the labor component of what they produce and greatly improve their productivity, their size, their scale, so that in fact the whole darn thing grows and becomes more profitable. I mean, that's the beauty. It's not just necessarily a one-to-one replacement of the person. It's a rework of the process, such that in the reworking of the process, one then goes in there and in fact does a better job doing what it's been doing and making it more profitable, which is why all this stuff is flourishing. Fundamentally, I think. Do you agree? I mean, is that what they're seeing? Is that what the farmers are seeing, or the mines are seeing, or the people that move things are moving them differently? Look at there's been a large change in the number of warehouses, especially here in Jersey. It's amazing, the number of warehouses. And so the whole logistics system has changed. Why? Because in the warehouses, the automation has made those entities so efficient that in fact now you can stage things in a lot of more places, and the big box store has become the warehouse. And instead of us going to the big box stores, goes to the warehouse and then comes to our front door. Wow. I mean, the process has changed because of the automation that you could do in the warehouse, I think.
You bring up a great point about warehouse. Prologis is another company that's in the index. If you look at where everything's going with the autonomous trucking, Prologis will build the depots. They're built for autonomy, delivering the goods to and from the distribution center. Those are going to be Prologis. They're going to play a very large role in the future of autonomy. But I want to get back to farming. Let's use the Central Valley of California, for example. It's a migrant area, and there's a labor shortage. A lot of these individuals and families that own farms cannot get the labor on the farms. And here, when you put an autonomous tractor, that family can farm their land, do another task, and be able to keep their farm. And then if we go fast forward in autonomy, from an investor perspective, from Deere, they'll go and they'll tillage the land, and the investor the farmer does not have to buy the tractor and have all that debt on their books. They can just pay for the tillage. That changes that. Now that farm could stay in that family, can keep going on generations and generations. There's a lot of positive impacts around autonomy. That's just one clear example of that, which you highlighted.
Yep, that's great. I mean, that's why you put together the index. I mean, because it is a signal to those that are in fact embracing this. Just like it's almost like an energy revolution. Where'd you locate your plant? Near a waterfall, where you get energy. I mean, this is now a way to substantially improve productivity, profitability, scale, and so on.
It's not autonomy is not a one size fits all solution. It's an ecosystem. You have the infrastructure on one side, you have the agriculture farming, you have the long haul trucking, and you have the passenger car, you have mining. This is all going to come together. If you look at electric vehicles, which we do not include electric vehicle companies in the index outside of Tesla, because around all their public statements around FSD and where Elon is publicly saying that he wants to take Tesla as a self-driving car company and the robotaxi disclosures they've made. When we make electric vehicles, the mines produce a lot of carbon. They're intensive. There's labor issues there. If you can automate those mines, electrify them, get rid of the dwell time, you'll lower the carbon. That's another aspect where autonomy is going. It's not driving around the roads of San Francisco, Phoenix, Miami, and seeing autonomous vehicles. There are all these parts of the world that autonomy is already impacting your life that you really haven't discovered or taken notice yet.
Yep.
It's coming, and it's here. It's active today.
It's
the
here.
largest deployment
It's here.
is Caterpillar.
It's here, and it's profitable. It is profitable. It's not a government induced, subsidized, got to keep it up, whatever, go, as I like to say, alms for the poor. It really is here.
It's here today. You turn on Bloomberg, you turn on CNBC, you open New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, AI, because the chat GPT everywhere, and you're in a university, so you're dealing with those issues. But every company you see a CEO goes on an earnings call or goes on for an interview at the earnings call, the analyst or the host says, "What's your AI strategy?" And then that executive spits it out. Let's fast forward to the future. Same thing's going to happen for autonomy. What's your autonomy strategy? That's going to be the next revolution that's coming. That's not really talked about. And as the index, we want to track that and show the world that this industry is coming.
Excellent.
There's a perception that this has been, over the last, I don't know, maybe year, a really rough patch for a lot of companies that are in this space. What's your take, Grayson?
In the private sector, yes, it has been a rough stretch. In the public sector, certain companies, it has been. But the companies with the balance sheets are going to win. The companies with, I said the average market cap is $303 billion. They have liquidity. Some are double B rated on their bonds. Some are double A rated. They have the ability to lend. Even with high interest rates, they have the credibility, and you're going to see consolidation. And consolidation is very healthy for the industry. If you look at, so Volvo AB is in the index, Daimler Truck is in the index. I would expect to see one or either both of those companies make some sort of acquisition to bolster autonomy. Because now, if you look at, if you're a fleet and your average fleet is small, very small, 250,000 fleets in the United States have 6 or less trucks. They're mom and pop small operations. They cannot afford $500,000, $750,000, or in some cases $1 million for an autonomous truck. But if Volvo or one of the large truck companies such as Daimler comes to you and says, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Trucking Company, we will lease this to you on a per mile basis. You can run the you can run the algorithm, you can run the economics. Say, okay, well, we can make a profit here. Think about how that changes the game of how you operate your business. Now you're operating a profitable business, and you can go play baseball on a Saturday with your kids in the park, and you're not doing the over-the-road driving. But if you do want to do the over-the-road driving for a covenant, for example, you have that ability. But if you don't, and you want to be a part of that baseball game or go to church, you can, because of autonomy, and those businesses can thrive. Autonomy is not just going to have an impact on the large companies, it's going to have a very large impact on local communities. Think about that. So that individual, that family is operating that trucking company. Now they're profitable. Perhaps they're going out to eat more. So now you're having an economic stimulus there, or they expand and hire another member of the community. It's going to be economic stimulus like we've never seen before.
What are your thoughts about the potential for using this technology to provide mobility for all, which is what we talk about all of the time here, and Alan spends a big part of his life on? Is that viable? Is it coming as soon as we would hope it would?
Unfortunately, it's not coming as soon as we would hope it would. It has to come. It has to change. If you look at what Alan is doing in the inner city of Trenton, and you look at other inner cities around the United States, if you look at Compton or you look at Inglewood in the Los Angeles area, some of the brightest, smartest minds live in those communities, but yet they unfortunately do not have access to go to a natural history museum. They don't have access to go to a really great library. So now imagine if you can give that kid the inspiration, you can take him to Natural History Museum, or you can take him to see a Picasso or Van Gogh. Think about what happens in that child's imagination if something clicks. I can do that. And that's where, when we get the mobility and the autonomous vehicle to take them there, that changes their life. But what if we go one step further in the future and we look at this as an experience? For instance, you have an individual in one of those environments that's studying the desert. Let's use Joshua Tree and stay on the California. And they can go out to Joshua Tree in a fully self-driving vehicle because maybe the mother or the dad can't afford a car and there's not public transportation to get out there, but this vehicle comes there and the family gets in there to go learn about cacti, learn about the desert. But then the windows become augmented and it starts giving them a history lesson on the desert. And they go and they have that really great family experience. And at the end of the day, it takes them there home safely. You inspire that kid, you change that child's life. That's where we have to get, in my opinion, with Mobility for All. We have to use it as inspiration. We have to inspire children, give them, the term is a way out. Give them the inspiration that you do not have to join a gang, unfortunately, in a lot of these neighborhoods to get out. You can become an educator, you can become an innovator. And oh, by the way, you can build this. Because if you look at a lot of those communities, they want to be sports stars. They think that's a way out. And I talk to a lot of these individuals, well, what if you own the team? What if you wrote the algorithm that built the video game that you're playing? Now that's cool. But it has to have exposure. And I believe that's what Mobility for All can do for these children.
You know, that's a great example, but there are many more mundane examples. I think getting to the doctor's office, getting to the supermarket, going to see a friend that for most of us, you just hop in the car and you go. But for a lot of people, that's the challenge.
It has to change. My vision is the big, bright future, but that reality, if somebody's getting dialysis or they have to go to a specialty doctor and they can't get there, the dial-a-ride system is broken and doesn't work. It's very expensive to operate. It doesn't work. We have to have the on-demand mobility. May Mobility is doing it in northern Minnesota, and that's working very well in that rural community. But we have to get it into the inner city where somebody can take out an app, boom, 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 and the vehicle can get them there without any questions safely. We have to get there. When do we get there? I don't know, but we have to get there.
Yeah, I mean that's been sort of my shtick for a while. The amazing thing about the car is that it is able to go between many places at most times. Maybe it can't do it in fog. Maybe it can't do it in heavy snow. Maybe it can't do it in heavy rains. But most of the rest of the time, it can do it. And can be just available to match up dial-a-ride, which had history 50 plus years, if not more, my personal history with it. The problem was matching up the car with when people wanted to go from A to B. With automation, and the problem was with doing that is you had a human in the loop. Not that the human isn't really flexible, can do all kinds of things, provide services you can't believe, like, oh, can I carry your bag or shine your shoes too? It can do those things, you know, which really puts the service out to, you know, really great. Unfortunately, timing and location of that individual are key. They have to match up with the timing and location of the vehicle to serve me or you or Fred or somebody else. And the
There's more to it than
logistics,
that.
the logistics of matching up the human has proven to be, oh my goodness, it is not easy. It's not that Uber doesn't work hard to get a gig worker. Again, as I said last week, you know, I'm there at Boca Chica and want to get to the airport. They can't get can't get an Uber. Nobody wants to drive there to come pick me up. My goodness, if us writing an algorithm, I got gazillion students who go right now and send the car, you know, send it over the air to, but no problem. I mean, that's just like that transforms the mobility opportunity. And it's not that now you don't have humans involved in this thing, because you end up doing so darn much of that. You need so many of those humans that were driving, not writing the code or whatever, or supporting that operation so that employment actually goes up.
Yeah.
It goes up. Why? Because there are a lot of people sitting around, geez, I would have improved my life if I could have gone someplace. Maybe it's just to visit a friend. I'd love to come visit you. Why am I here and not down there with you? I mean, yeah, I want to come. No, but
love to have you down here.
but seriously, and it's just that, and we've been unable to do that if you have to get somebody to do it for you. Sometimes it's what convenient, hey, yeah, and whatever, and you may not even have to pay them too much. Usually you have to pay them a heck of a lot because they deserve to earn a living and be able to go out and also travel and buy food. And so that's where the automation, the automated driver, will match those things up trivially almost. To me, that's been the greatest opportunity of at least the classic vehicle on our classic roads, of this road infrastructure that we built, 7 million miles of road or something like that exists in the United States, or whatever that number is, plus you can go off-road a little bit too, you get to a lot of, get to the desert route, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
The bottom line is autonomy will create jobs. Autonomy will create jobs. And when you look at the senior citizens or the older individuals, spend a lot of time speaking to them about autonomy and autonomous vehicles. And I asked them, what is the number one reason you want an autonomous vehicle? It's a surprising answer, which I thought was really wonderful. Pick my grandkids up at the airport to come see me. That's a very big thing that they want to, because going to the airport is very strenuous, very tough. The number two, if I'm going to go to dinner or I'm going to go to the beauty parlor, I don't have a fear of driver. When you speak to a lot of especially the widowed, elderly individuals, they're afraid of the driver, of potentially being attacked by the driver. They read something in the headlines in the newspaper, or they talk to a friend. Oh, this driver did this and this driver did that. You eliminate that. So you're giving them comfort to be mobility, to go where they want. And you're giving them the ability to pick their grandkids up at the airport to come visit them. Think about the quality of life impact that has.
Yeah.
That changes their quality of life impact, and increases the living standards, and they'll probably live longer for the simple reason they're happier.
Yep. Yeah.
And can this be affordable enough and at the same time profitable enough to provide these kinds of services to people who really, really need it?
Oh, well, I claim that's an easy one because you get so much productivity out of the asset. My car sits around all the time. I mean, it's amazing. I might as well put it up on the mantle. Okay, seriously, it does nothing most of the time, and it could. The productivity of my car is nothing. If not, that car can end up being, just because a computer now goes and does a bunch of stuff and does it for other people. All of a sudden, the distribution, maybe it's not my vehicle, it's somebody else's, or is Elon originally, Airbnb my vehicle? Oh, then I get revenue from. I mean, not that I necessarily think that that's the greatest way to do it. I think a fleet manager can sit out there and buy a bunch of these things, just make them available and become rich. I mean, if you do 100-person trips a day in a vehicle, my goodness, if you make $1 on each one, you earn a lot of money. Too, if you collect $1 for each ride, you can easily pay for the vehicle. And what the heck is it going to cost you, especially if it's electric and so on? Another, $1 a ride.
Well,
you're in the single-digit dollars in terms of the cost, which makes it enormously.
You dive into this.
Affordable.
Look at the economics of Hertz. When Hertz started transitioning the fleet to electrification, the amount of money that they're saving from maintenance. So if you're gonna save all the money from maintenance,
right?
And you will have operators, if you want, the super shuttles of the world that was acquired by Transit.
Right.
There'll be these little niche operators that become highly profitable. Perhaps it's just this focuses on the regional area to and from the Orlando airport, MCO, to the villages, and then operating in the villages what Voyage was doing prior to the cruise acquisition. You will start to see a lot of these companies pop up. Then perhaps, I think at some point in the future, licensing is going to become a big thing. Perhaps Waymo licenses the stacks to Fred's Transportation Company or to Allen's Transportation Company, or Cruise license the stack. Then you start operating this, then you're paying them a licensing fee, but you're building out the business model. Similar to how restaurants are franchised. That model could happen at some point in the future. That's a scalable model that is economically beneficial on both sides of the table.
And those franchise restaurants, guess what they sell? They sell McDonald's hamburgers. Guess what McDonald's does? It ends up scaling those things to sell a gazillion of them. And they make a couple whatever cents or $1 on each one. And guess what? Everybody does fine. And because it's affordable, I guess they want to eat more McDonald's hamburgers. Now, whether or not we should be eating McDonald's, we won't even go there. I mean, call it something else. Starbucks latte. How Starbucks make money? Not by selling 2 or 3 lattes, by selling a whole heck of a lot of lattes. Boom, boom, boom. This is a business, and the business is person trips. And the idea is to be able to provide to more people the opportunity to do what they want at the time that they want to do it, to go someplace at a price that they're more than happy to pay for, because they're going to get some enjoyment out of going to wherever they go. And if you can put that out there at, single-digit dollars easily, or low single-digit dollars, well, a lot of people should be able to, hey, sure, I'll do this. Now that, some of those people get to buy their own car. And the people that buy their own car, they justify, well, one, they have a ton of money already. 2, they, of course, justify using their car because the marginal cost of any use is at like 0. Okay, because you're not always filling it up with gas. And when you do gas, you give somebody a credit card, you don't even see it. You pay your insurance twice a year or something. You don't see that. So that's 0. I mean, the whole perception of the beauty that the automotive industry made is that, my goodness, they made the perception of cost of that vehicle 0 on use. So of course we've all gone out there to buy it. Some of us struggled, but we went through the struggle once and we bought it. Great. what's nice about this is that the businesses that will go out there and might ask you for a couple bucks each time. And just like you pay a couple bucks for more than a couple bucks for your latte, you'll pay a couple bucks for this. And you'll be really happy, I think. And they'll be really happy, I think. And it's a business and everybody's happy. It's win, win, win. And your index goes roof, roof, roof.
It's a platform. Autonomy,
Yeah.
a franchise, you're buying a platform. You're buying access to Starbucks,
Absolutely.
McDonald's,
Absolutely.
Burger King. It's a platform. And now if you're an entrepreneur and you put up the 100,000, the 10,000, perhaps you get a small business loan and you build it, you're building on that platform. You're not going to build the tech. You're going to build the experience. You're going to build the service in that community. Perhaps you join the local chamber of commerce and you get involved, and then it just starts skyrocketing. If you take a step backwards, remember when the Model S and Model X first came out, chauffeur companies started popping up all over the country. We are an all-electric Tesla livery company, and those models started to take off. And one of the more famous ones, I use their service a lot. And when I lived in California, Morgan Freeman launched a livery company, and it was all Tesla Model X's, and it worked really well, but it was all electric, good for the environment. So that same thing is going to happen with autonomy, but on a grander scale. You're seeing on the livery side, Captain in Vegas, they're still scaling very well doing that.
Yeah. No, I know that was an interesting one, right?
It's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business.
Obviously, this is one of the topics we're hoping to be discussing at the upcoming summit in Princeton, but there's some logistics problems to overcome here. And Alan, what's the latest news?
Well, yes, I mean the focus of the summit this year is exactly what we've been talking about all day. Is really to make this into a business and to highlight the successes of the business, especially in what we characterized as the on private property, on the farms, in the warehouses, in the mines, and so on, which are the obvious places where there's real, and also how to make it really work on public roads, especially with respect to logistics. But on the public roads, also maybe not necessarily going all the way to driverless, but the successes to date and the advanced driver assistance systems and the automated emergency braking systems, and how they're evolving and how they're growing, and how the customer adoption, and how it's also helping sell vehicles. So to discuss that. And to take it all the way to, I guess, what we've been talking about lately here, which is how about providing mobility for people, and especially maybe to begin with for people who don't necessarily have their car ready available to them. I'd love to chauffeur people and give people rides. It's a little embarrassing when you have to ask for a ride. You do that sometimes, but it'd be nice to just be able to do that. And we're still working on that one, because that requires a level of safety and a level of technical ability that we're sort of beginning to see in Phoenix and in San Francisco. But the news reports out of Phoenix and San Francisco, at least in terms of the headlines, it ends up being discouraged. Poor Waymo is out there, offering these vehicles, and they decide to not drive into fog. And of course, the headlines come out, they caused congestion because they didn't drive in the fog. Whereas, I think the headline should have been, oh my goodness, finally Waymo's putting some sanity in the way people drive in San Francisco to not drive in fog. I mean, what are you doing? You're risking your life and my life.
We're seeing those headlines all the time. There's another one just out from Jalopnik. Autonomous cars are getting in the way of emergency responders in San Francisco.
Geez, poor Kyle. I mean, out there trying to provide mobility to people. Crews started their mobility at night. And they're not good enough to do it today. They're just doing it at night when it's easy and so on and whatever. And I'm there. Why is that the headline? Why isn't the headline, my goodness, Cruise is out there providing mobility when the public transportation system and workers are home sleeping and closed? Mooney doesn't operate at night. And what if somebody needs a ride? What are you supposed to do? Drag a gig worker out of bed? Whereas you have this automated vehicle just available, and Cruise is making it available out there, and you can just use it. They should be applauded for that. And my goodness, I got too excited here. I got too excited here clapping. Whatever, but they should be. And so maybe I have a completely different view of this world than the rest of the folks. But my goodness, why these headlines? Is this really selling Jalopnik's stuff because they put that out there? Come on. I mean,
it's sad.
Sure, you don't want to run over fire hoses. I can't imagine that a Waymo vehicle or a Cruise vehicle was the first vehicle in the world to run over a fire hose. I probably drove over a fire hose before they did.
What? So let's look. The headlines are sad. I think the headlines are sad.
So we'll talk about all of that. My problem is I tried to shoehorn this the summit between the end of exams and the beginning of reunions. And I thought I could do it. Why? Because it was a good window to do it. Not many other people were having conferences at that time, and whatever. Got a lot of people wanting to come and I find that logistics wise in Princeton, there's a reason why conferences maybe don't go on at that time. It's because Princeton has reunions, and they are a big deal. And I thought I could squeeze this in, and I may not be able to. There just may not be the physical facilities available to appropriately have this conference. I already hinted that I was going to have to limit the registration, and it's gotten to be that maybe that's not even can't even do that. So please stay tuned, go to the website. We'll keep everybody updated. But right now we're sort of as with Starship, we are pausing, holding the countdown at T-minus 40 seconds. We are making sure we have appropriate pressure in all of the tanks. And are prepared to resume our countdown at 40 seconds and go to launch, or we may have to abort for another day. So instead of being the website, Wednesday of 2 weeks ago, we may be sitting at Monday of 2 weeks ago.
The website is summit.smartdrivingcar.com. Stay tuned there for the latest info on the scheduling here. Another quick headline, Kodiak just out, says it will have an autonomous electric truck in its fleet next year. Kind of thing that you were talking about, Grayson, I suppose, in terms of what's going on in the industry, right?
It's smart. It's really smart. When you look at autonomy, you look at alternative fuels, and I'll put electrification in alternative fuels. We are going to take a hybrid approach to decarbonization. The Kodiak autonomous truck, the way it's designed for 120 miles, is a really great drayage run. And then when that Kodiak truck, say, goes from Dallas to Atlanta, it'll run on hydrogen. That's where we're going. And perhaps that you'll have renewable diesel, which will play a very large mix in this, because as we look at decarbonize, we look at new technologies, renewable diesel has an advantage over hydrogen. Renewable diesel has an advantage over electrification. The infrastructure's in place. ExxonMobil is investing. Dan Ammons leading the low carbon business there. They're investing in renewable diesel. They're building another refinery in Canada to bring that online. The infrastructure's in place. Hydrogen infrastructure won't be today, won't be tomorrow. It's probably 10 years away from building out. But on the electrification side, the ports traditionally and already have a lot of energy. They have a lot of power. The Kodiak autonomous truck goes from the port to an inland warehouse, say 50 miles. Well, that inland warehouse distribution center, probably maybe it's Prologis or CBRE, we don't know. They have a lot of power. You have the ability to charge on both ends. And you can run that fully autonomous on fixed routes. That makes a lot of sense. And from an economic standpoint, you can lower the cost of shipping. As you, as the end consumer, think about how much money you save. You save money, company makes more money, everybody's happy, and we did a lot less carbon emissions as well.
I guess people who aren't happy are, there's always the grumbling about you're taking jobs away from drivers. Alan is focused very much on using the technology to improve the lives of drivers rather than replace them.
There's no such thing as autonomy killing jobs. There is a such thing as autonomy creating jobs. If you start as a truck driver today at 18 years old, you will retire as a truck driver, plain and simple. When you look at, there's the argument, oh, you're going to remove the driver, you're going to run this fully autonomous grid. No. You have individuals that either the port or the depot, they're going to have to launch the truck. They're going to have to inspect the truck, launch a truck. That's a job. The maintenance individual is going to have to maintain the LiDAR. The individual that's going to have to get the data off of the truck. That's a job. One job, maybe you're looking at 3, potentially 6 jobs created. Remember the old days back in the cell phone? Before we got cell phone, the individuals had to unplug and plug in, all that. Look at what jobs cell phone created. You have the individuals that inspect the towers, the individuals that build the towers, the individuals that operate the network, the individuals that buy the spectrum. It's created thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs. Autonomy will be a job creator.
Yeah, I mean that's what's happened throughout history with every technological improvement. I mean, what is it that the less than 2% of the people now produce all the food that we eat? And in fact, we probably produce enough food for everybody to eat very well. Maybe the distribution system needs to be improved. We improve the distribution system, everybody eats 2% of the people. It used to be that basically 100% of the people produced the food, right? We all produced our own. Somehow we figured out, oh my goodness, if we use animals and then whatever, and then machines, and then now autonomy, we're gonna produce more, support more, and create even more jobs out of that, because all those people who used to work on the farms now have great jobs not on the farm, right? I mean, it's just natural. The labor argument, against this is just it has no substance.
Look at elevators. Remember when your friend Mr. Mudge? He has a great theory on that.
Yeah.
And when the Teamsters went on strike,
yeah,
they put automated elevators in, and your friend Mr. Mudge does a really great presentation on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, elevators, as I like to say, if we didn't have automated elevators, the buildings in heights in New York would be that of Paris. Now, maybe that would be nicer. I don't know. I don't want to argue one way or another whether one's better or not, but you wouldn't have tall buildings. You just wouldn't. Now, maybe, I'm not suggesting that tall buildings are bad, but you can't. I mean, sure, in Trump Tower, you can afford to have an elevator operator or, in other exclusive places. Every other place, boy, that is true autonomy out there working for you. I mean, it just takes you, drops you off, you forget about it. Why isn't that horizontally? Why isn't it easy for me to get to something that I hop on? It takes me when I want to go, or, very reasonable time when I want to go. Takes me where I want to go, drops me off, and I forget about it. I pull Brooklyn on it, forget about it. And most importantly, what's the trouble with this with the normal system is when I want to come home. So when I go, I have to say to myself, oh, how in the heck am I going to get home? Or sometimes, a lot of times I forget and don't do that. But I really want to get home. So the system has to have the flexibility, the opportunity to bring me home. If I look at the value of my car, to me, one, it's sitting out there when I want to go. Two, I put it in a parking entity that when I want to come home, that sucker's there. Boom. Oh, Alan, how can I take you home now?
So you're right on that.
Go.
Let's fast forward into the future. You and Mrs. Kornhauser, you're having dinner, and the bill arrives. Then all suddenly it triggers something automatically, or you're paying on the toast technology. All suddenly now the vehicle taking you home is right in front. Because same thing with the now you're not thinking, you're limiting. Now you're having a really wonderful dinner. You're not having to think. I have to get that out and call it. Nope, it's already going to be there. It already knows that I'm ready to leave.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, of course, I deserve to be picked up at the front door and with a shoe. Yeah, of course. But I think I'm willing to walk a block or something. But when I walk the block, when I enter a building, I expect the elevator to be somewhere in the center. It's not sitting there at the front door. It'd be nice if it was. But I'm willing to hoof it to the center and hop in. And so if you can put a front door, great. But it doesn't even have to be that good. But what it needs to be is to be there within a reasonable time and will get me somewhere close that I can get myself into my bed. Now, it's not going to bring me up to my bedroom and drop me on my bed, okay? Because I might have had, whatever, never mind. But seriously here, and unfortunately, New Jersey Transit does a great job. But if I go to New York on the train and go to a show and go to dinner, I have to look up on the schedule to see when that last train is, because I better not stay there later than that. Otherwise, I'm toast. And maybe that's fine. That's not bad.
It takes away the enjoyment, though.
But if the whole thing was automated, if the vehicles were just like, in the middle of the night, if I'm an operator, franchise operator, and I have a fleet, there are certain times during the day in which that fleet is like, and I have to have shared ride out there and and everything else because I've taken that fleet to meet that capacity because I've got to deliver. The rest of the day, it's sitting around. I can have it anywhere. It shouldn't make me fit its schedule. It should be looking at me, oh, Professor Kornhauser, how can I help you? Okay. And it's just some algorithm out there, Chat GPT, that does it. That's what you can deliver with this. And now I don't have to worry about, when it is. Maybe I'm having such a good time chatting that, I'm late. No problem. It's available.
Alan, I'm just sitting here shocked and stunned that Grayson brought up the word elevator before you did. I mean, it doesn't work everywhere. Of course it doesn't. But as a service concept of something that is just trying to take care of me and get me from where I am to where I want to go at about the time when I want to do it, and be available to get me back.
to where I was. No wonder people build tall buildings and are able to rent the space on the 14th floor, because they've made it easy. The elevator, the mobility, and it's automated, is sitting there. How can I help you? Horizontal, and it doesn't look at the color of my skin. Doesn't ask me really. It is so darn good that the restaurateur on the 14th floor or at the corner of Hollywood and Vine is more than willing to pay for the darn thing, because it brings the customer there elegantly and allows the customer to go home elegantly, come down or come from. That's why people pay rent. That's why people pay rent on the 14th floor or on the 28th or the 92nd or even the 3rd floor. Second.
It's an experience. What you describe is an experience. You're eliminating stress from that. And if I'm a tourism board, I'm encouraging the autonomy vision that you share and that I share, because now you're going to spend more money in that location. You're going to want to come there because I'm eliminating all friction.
Absolutely. You know, I want to go to that restaurant because I think I'm going to have a great meal and have a great discussion. The only thing that's keeping me from going there is getting my butt there. I make getting my butt there easy and getting home. I have to put back in getting home. Because then if I'm worried about getting home, I'm not going to go visit. Yeah.
There's so many pockets. If you look at New York City, so you mentioned Brooklyn, you have Peter Luger, very difficult to get to. You have Arthur Avenue in the Bronx that has great Italian food. So imagine if I could have the AV to take me there to and from safely. And I could stop at the Bronx Zoo with my daughter. That's a really great. So we go to the Bronx Zoo, we go to Arthur Avenue, and come home and not have to think of how am I going to get there? Am I going to go through rough neighborhoods, or am I going to go through something I don't want to see? Autonomy solves all that. Autonomy is an economic development engine.
Not to mention the parking, which is maybe the biggest headache.
Yeah, right. I mean, the problem is that and look, if I do this, the thing can take itself to a little bit more remote parking as opposed to right in front of Dominic's there in North Avenue, which is the greatest place in the world. Whatever if you mentioned it.
Let's record there next time, please.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. I mean, is there still the one writing everything down? There's no menu. There's no here, whatever. Take the credit card, whatever. You do it for me. Just bring me whatever's on the menu today. I mean, whatever.
That sounds like great, Grayson. We really want to thank you for spending time with us, and congratulations on.
Yeah. No, really. Yeah, and it's a good thing that you're putting out there and so on, and allow people to properly position themselves within this industry and to monitor the industry. It's a great thing. Kudos to you.
Thanks. We're just getting started. As I say, the future is bright and the future is autonomous. And Alan, Fred, thank you so much for having me on. And Alan, please, Fred, please, next time, let's do this in Dominic's and Arthur Avenue.
That is a great idea. I mean, I haven't been there certainly since COVID. I mean, it did survive, didn't it? It must have. I hope so. I'll have to look it up, but they're probably not on the web.
You can find Grayson at roadtoautonomy.com. You can find much more, including his podcast and consulting services as well. And there's the Road to Autonomy show. The site, once again, for the latest on the Smart Driving Car Summit is summit.smartdrivingcar.com. Stay tuned for news there. You can find us also at smartdrivingcar.com. Also, wherever you turn to for podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Amazon, Spreaker. Ask your smart speaker to play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Thanks for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.
Thank you, and thank you. This was, of course, I always have fun with these things, and thank you for adding to the fun.